The potential for deflation to lead to a prolonged period of economic stagnation, known as a lost decade. Deflation, a decrease in the general price level of goods and services, is often perceived as a favorable economic condition for consumers. Lower prices can mean increased purchasing power. However, prolonged deflation can lead to a significant economic challenge known as a lost decade. This term refers to a prolonged period of economic stagnation, characterized by minimal or negative growth, high unemployment, and declining investments. Understanding the potential for deflation to induce such a scenario is crucial for policymakers, businesses, and consumers alike. Understanding deflation and its causes. Deflation can result from various factors, including decrease in aggregate demand. A significant drop in consumer and business spending can lead to a decrease in demand for goods and services. Increase in supply. Technological advancements or increases in production capacity can lead to an oversupply, driving prices down. Monetary policy. Tight monetary policies or a strong currency can reduce the money supply, leading to deflation. The mechanism of a lost decade occurs when deflation becomes entrenched, leading to a vicious cycle. Decreased consumer spending. As prices fall, consumers may delay purchases, expecting even lower prices in the future. Reduced business investment. Lower consumer spending leads to reduced revenue for businesses. Discouraging investment and expansion. High unemployment. With reduced business activity, unemployment rises, further decreasing consumer spending and economic activity. Debt deflation. The real value of debt increases as prices fall, making it more difficult for borrowers to repay loans, leading to defaults and financial instability. Historical examples of a lost decade. The most notable example of a lost decade is Japan's experience during the 1990s. After a period of rapid economic growth, Japan entered a prolonged period of deflation and stagnation. Despite various policy measures, the economy struggled to recover, resulting in what is now referred to as Japan's lost decade. Preventing and mitigating a lost decade. To prevent deflation from leading to a lost decade, policymakers can implement several measures: expansionary monetary policy. Lowering interest rates and increasing the money supply can stimulate economic activity. Fiscal stimulus. Government spending on infrastructure, education, and other public goods can boost demand. Structural reforms. Improving labor market flexibility and encouraging innovation can help adapt the economy to new challenges. FAQ, Q1, what is deflation? Deflation is a decrease in the general price level of goods and services. It is the opposite of inflation. Q2, why is deflation considered dangerous, while deflation may seem beneficial due to lower prices? It can lead to decreased consumer spending and business investment, resulting in economic stagnation and high unemployment. Q3, what is a lost decade? A lost decade refers to a prolonged period of economic stagnation, characterized by minimal or negative growth, high unemployment, and declining investments, often triggered by persistent deflation. Q4, can you provide an example of a lost decade? Japan's economic stagnation during the 1990s is a prominent example of a lost decade, where deflation and various economic challenges led to prolonged stagnation. Q5, how can policymakers prevent a lost decade? Policymakers can use expansionary monetary policies, fiscal stimulus, and structural reforms to combat deflation and stimulate economic activity. Understanding the risks associated with deflation and taking proactive measures can help prevent the severe economic consequences of a lost decade. By learning from historical examples and implementing effective policies, economies can navigate the challenges posed by deflation and maintain sustainable growth.